London, August 23, 1305. The sun isn't even fully risen, yet the streets are already choked with bodies. It is a humid, claustrophobic morning. The air hangs heavy, thick with the smell of the Thames, the stench of unwashed wool, and the nervous, electric sweat of tens of thousands of people. They are pressing against one another, a living tide of humanity, jostling, shouting, climbing onto rooftops, hanging from window ledges just to get a glimpse of the horror that is about to unfold. There is no festival today. There is no coronation. There is no royal wedding or celebration of harvest. There is only a spectacle of brutality. A promise of violence so severe, so absolute, that the entire city has ground to a halt to witness it. Listen to this sound. It isn't the cheer of a parade. It is a low, guttural roar, the sound of a mob that smells blood. And beneath that roar, a rhythm. The grinding of wooden wheels over uneven cobblestones. The clatter of hooves. The dragging of chains. A bound man, mud-streaked, blood-dried, half-dragged, lies strapped to a wooden hurdle. He is not standing. He is not walking. He is livestock. He is baggage. He is being hauled through the filth of the street, his head knocking against the stones, his eyes wide, taking in the gray London sky. Someone in the crowd spits. A glob of saliva lands on his cheek. He cannot wipe it away. His hands are bound so tight the circulation has long since cut off. Someone else laughs, a sharp, cruel cackle that cuts through the morning air. Children are lifted onto their fathers' shoulders, pointing small, dirty fingers at the broken figure on the hurdle. They ask their mothers in hushed, terrified whispers, "Is that him? Is that the monster?" His name is William Wallace. To some, he is a messiah, a guardian, a sword in the darkness. To others, he is a traitor, a brigand, a murderer of priests and women. But to the people gathered here today, the London mob, he is nothing more than a body waiting to be broken. He is meat for the butcher. Before we go deeper into the darkest execution Britain ever staged, if you're listening to this right now, do not just consume this history passively. This is a story they tried to burn out of the history books. Hit like, subscribe, and comment. Scotland rises to honor the man whose death they tried to erase. It costs you nothing, but it helps this history stay alive against the algorithms that prefer you forget. The execution you are about to witness wasn't punishment. We have to be very clear about this from the start. Punishment is transactional. You commit a crime, you pay a price. What happened to William Wallace was not transactional. It was theatrical. It was not justice. It was a message carved in human suffering, a medieval masterpiece of fear designed to crush a rebellion and terrify a nation. King Edward I of England, known as Longshanks, was not a man who engaged in half measures. He understood something fundamental about power in the 14th century. Power is not just about armies or castles. Power is about the control of the imagination. If you can make a man's death so horrific, so culturally scarring that the mere thought of rebellion makes a Scotsman vomit in fear, you have won a victory that no arrow or spear can achieve. This was psychological warfare disguised as legal process. But to understand the end, we must understand the beginning. We have to shift our gaze north. We have to go back to a Scotland that was not yet a ruin, but a kingdom standing on the precipice of hell. Picture Scotland in the late 1200s. It is a hard land. A land of granite and rain, of deep lochs and misty glens. For years, it had known a relative peace under King Alexander III. But history is fragile. One dark, stormy night, Alexander rides his horse off a cliff in the dark. Snap. Just like that, the golden age ends. He leaves no sons. Only a granddaughter, the Maid of Norway, a small child who dies on the voyage over. The royal line is extinguished. The throne of Scotland sits empty, a wooden chair in a cold hall, gathering dust. This is the moment of escalation into chaos. The Scottish nobles, a pit of vipers known as the Guardians, begin to turn on one another. They are squabbling, greedy, and short-sighted. In their desperation to avoid civil war, they make a fatal error. They invite a neighbor to arbitrate their dispute. They invite King Edward I of England. They thought they were inviting a judge. They were inviting a wolf into the sheepfold. Edward comes north not to choose a king but to become the master. He installs a puppet, John Balliol, and strips Scotland of its dignity piece by piece. He demands taxes. He demands soldiers for his wars in France. He treats the proud kingdom of Scotland like a rebellious county, a feudal holding to be milked dry. And into this vacuum, into this humiliation, steps a man who shouldn't have mattered. William Wallace. He is not a great noble. He is not a polished general trained in the high arts of chivalry. He does not own vast estates. He is the second son of a minor landowner. In the grand chess game of medieval politics, Wallace is a pawn. He is nobody. But Wallace is shaped by something the nobles lack. He is shaped by loss. He is shaped by pure, unadulterated anger. We don't know much about his early years. History is often written by the victors, and the English had no interest in recording his childhood. But the legends tell us the story. They tell us of a man who watched the English occupiers rape, pillage, and murder his people. The spark wasn't political. It was personal. They say English soldiers killed his wife, or perhaps his lover, Marion Braidfield. They say they killed his father. Imagine that grief. Imagine that hole in your chest where your family used to be. Now fill that hole with fire. Wallace wasn't born a fighter. He was made one by the cruelty of an occupation. He didn't want a crown. He wanted blood. The uprising of 1297 does not begin with a grand army marching in formation. It begins in the forest. It begins in the dark. Wallace gathers men who are like him, broken, desperate, furious. They are not soldiers. They are farmers with pitchforks, shepherds with knives. They strike from the mist. They ambush patrols. They vanish before the English heavy cavalry can even mount their horses. He becomes a myth. To the English garrisons shivering in their stone keeps, he is the Wallace, the shadow, the ghost. Then comes Stirling Bridge. September 11th, 1297. This is the moment the world turns upside down. The English army, the most professional fighting force in Christendom, marches north to swat this fly. They are led by the Earl of Surrey, a man who views the Scots as subhuman rabble. They see Wallace's army across the river. A ragtag group. No armor. No discipline. The English knights, arrogant and heavy with iron, begin to cross the narrow wooden bridge. 2 by 2. Slow. Tedious. Wallace watches. He waits. He possesses a tactical patience that borders on the supernatural. He waits until half the English army is across, trapped in a loop of the river, the ground marshy and soft. Then he blows the horn. The Scots charge. Not a polite, chivalric charge. A tidal wave of screaming hatred. They hit the English knights before they can form lines. Horses bog down in the mud. Knights in heavy plate armor fall into the river and drown, dragged down by their own protection. It is a slaughter. The river Forth runs red. The English army is not just defeated, it is annihilated. The unbeatable war machine is broken by a nobody. This is the height of the legend. Wallace is named Guardian of Scotland. He is knighted. For a brief, shining moment, it seems that a common man, fueled by righteousness, can stand against the might of an empire. If you love how cinematic and raw real history can be, if you can feel the mud of Stirling Bridge and hear the clash of steel, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. 80% of you watching right now forget to click that button. Don't be one of them. Join the ranks. But gravity applies to legends just as it applies to stones. What goes up must come down. King Edward is not a man to forgive humiliation. He returns from France. He raises a new army, a bigger army. He brings the longbow, a weapon of mass destruction. At the Battle of Falkirk, the Scots are broken. The circles of spearmen are rained on by arrows until they collapse. Wallace escapes, but his power is shattered. He resigns the guardianship. He fades back into the shadows, traveling to France, perhaps even Rome, begging for help that never comes. The years pass. The year is 1305. The Scottish nobles, those vipers from the beginning, see the writing on the wall. They are tired of war. They want their lands back. They want their comfort. One by one they bend the knee to Edward. They kiss the ring of the man who enslaved their country. But Wallace refuses. He becomes a hunted man, a fugitive in his own land. He sleeps in caves, moves by night, eats what he can catch. The price on his head is astronomical. And betrayal, when it comes, does not come with a bang. It comes quietly. It comes with a handshake. Sir John Menteith, a Scottish noble, a man Wallace thought he could trust. On August 3, 1305, near Glasgow, Menteith signals the English soldiers. There is no heroic last stand. There is no speech. Just the rush of bodies in the dark, the cold iron of shackles, and a whispered name. The myth is captured. The lion is caged. The suffering of William Wallace does not begin on the scaffold. It begins the moment the chains touch his skin. Edward wants to make an example, but he also wants a parade. Wallace is bound like a pig and thrown onto a horse. He is paraded south. Imagine that journey. Hundreds of miles. Through every town, through every hamlet, the English soldiers stop. They show him off. Here he is, they shout. Here is the king of robbers. Crowds gather to spit on him. They throw rotten vegetables, stones, filth. He is denied water. He is denied sleep. His wrists are raw, bleeding from the friction of the manacles. His muscles cramp. He is covered in his own waste. But the chroniclers tell us something chilling. Throughout the entire journey, he never begs. He never cries out. He looks every jeering face in the eye with a stony, terrifying silence. He denies them the satisfaction of his fear. By the time they reach London, he is a physical wreck. But his spirit is a diamond, hard, cold, and unbreakable. Westminster Hall, the oldest building in the British Parliament. It is vast, echoing, and packed to the rafters. They bring him in. They force him to stand on a scaffold in the center of the hall. And then, the final insult. They place a crown on his head. Not a crown of gold, but a crown of laurels, green leaves. It is a mockery. They are calling him the king of outlaws. The crowd laughs. The nobles sneer. The trial is a sham. There is no jury. There is no defense counsel. Wallace is not allowed to speak. He is forced to listen as the charges are read out. Treason, sacrilege, murder, arson. The list goes on and on. They paint him as a demon, a man who burned nuns and murdered children. But when the charge of treason is read, the charge that he betrayed King Edward, Wallace breaks his silence. He shouts across the hall, his voice raspy from disuse but ringing with conviction. I cannot be a traitor to a king I never acknowledged. Think about the power of that statement. Treason implies betrayal of loyalty. Wallace is arguing a legal impossibility. I never swore an oath to you. You are not my king. You are a foreign invader. I am a patriot fighting for my home. It doesn't matter. The verdict was written before he even arrived in London. The sentence is read aloud. It is a sentence so complex, so specific that it requires a checklist. He is to be drawn. He is to be hanged. He is to be disemboweled. He is to be beheaded. He is to be quartered. It is death in every way a human being can die, all inflicted on one body sequentially. If this injustice makes your blood boil, if you can see the corruption of a court that silences the truth, drop a comment below. Injustice. Let's see how many of us see through the lies of history. Now we return to the morning of August 23rd. The cold open. Wallace is stripped naked. A piece of cloth is wrapped around his waist. He is tied by his ankles to the tail of a horse. The journey from Westminster to Smithfield, the place of execution, is 4 miles. 4 miles. The horse starts to move. Wallace is dragged. Not over soft grass. Over cobblestones. Over mud. Over the sewage of the city. His skin is flayed from his back. His head bounces against the rocks. The crowd surges forward, kicking him, hitting him with sticks. By the time he arrives at Smithfield, he is a mass of bleeding raw meat. He is barely recognizable as human. He is lifted up. The executioner is waiting. A massive crowd, tens of thousands strong, holds its breath. Phase 1, the hanging. They put the noose around his neck. They haul him up. He kicks, he struggles, his face turns purple. He is strangling. The darkness closes in. But this is not the end. This is just the appetizer. Just before he loses consciousness, just before death takes him, they cut the rope. He drops to the platform, gasping, heaving, air rushing back into his burning lungs. He is alive. They wanted him alive. You cannot torture a corpse. Phase 2, the evisceration. Wallace is pinned down. He is fully conscious. He feels everything. The executioner takes a sharp knife. He slices open Wallace's abdomen. I want you to really visualize this. This isn't a movie. There are no stunt doubles. This is a living man lying on a wooden table, watching his own body being dismantled. The executioner reaches in. He pulls out the intestines. He pulls out the organs. And he holds them up. He shows them to Wallace. Then he throws them into a brazier, a fire burning right next to Wallace's face. The smell of burning flesh, his own flesh, fills Wallace's nose. The agony is beyond the capacity of language to describe. It is a universe of pain. And yet, the legends persist that even now, he does not scream for mercy. He recites the Psalms. He prays. Phase 3, the heart. Finally, the executioner carves out the heart. The beating drum of the rebellion stops. Wallace is dead. The suffering is over. But the desecration continues. Phase 4, the beheading. The axe comes down. One clean stroke. The head, the face that inspired a nation, rolls across the wood. The crowd erupts. It is a release of tension, a horrific catharsis. Phase 5, the quartering. The body is hacked into 4 pieces. The arms, the legs, the torso. The butchers go to work, packaging the hero of Scotland like cuts of beef. This is brutality beyond imagination. This is exactly what the title promised you. Edward I did not just want to kill Wallace. He wanted to scatter his soul. He takes the head. He dips it in tar to preserve it. He sticks it on a pike and places it on London Bridge. It sits there, rotting, staring down at the people of London, a gruesome gargoyle. But the body parts? They are sent on a tour. 1/4 is sent to Newcastle, 1 to Berwick, 1 to Stirling, 1 to Perth. These are the corners of the kingdom. The message is clear. It is geographical propaganda. Edward is saying, look at your hero. This is what happens when a commoner defies a king. This is what happens when you think you can be free. He turned Wallace into a map of terror. But Edward I, for all his cunning, for all his cruelty, made a catastrophic miscalculation. He thought that by displaying the mangled ruin of Wallace's body, he would sow fear. He thought the Scots would look at that severed arm in Stirling and tremble. He was wrong. They didn't see a criminal. They saw a martyr. They didn't see defeat. They saw sacrifice. Instead of terror, Wallace's death ignited a rage that was colder and harder than anything that came before. The blood of Wallace watered the soil of Scottish resistance. Within months, a new leader stepped forward. Robert the Bruce. A noble who had wavered, who had played politics, looked at what they did to Wallace and realized there was no going back. The rebellion didn't die at Smithfield. It was reborn there. 9 years later, at the Battle of Bannockburn, the Scots, outnumbered and outgunned, would crush the English army and win their independence. And it is said that as they charged, the name on their lips was not just Bruce. It was Wallace. Edward tried to turn a man into meat. Instead, he turned him into a god. Some deaths end revolutions. They cut the head off the snake and the body dies. Wallace's death created one. As we look back at this from the safety of the 21st century, it is easy to get lost in the gore. It is easy to see it just as a horror story, but it is more than that. William Wallace became a symbol of defiance. He became a ghost that refuses to fade. He proved a fundamental truth of the human condition. You can break a body. You can hang it, draw it, and quarter it. You can burn the organs and tar the head. But you cannot kill an idea. You cannot kill the desire for freedom. Brutality, no matter how extreme, cannot erase belief. Edward I is known to history as the Hammer of the Scots. But hammers only forge steel. He struck Scotland with all his might, and all he did was forge a nation that would never again accept chains. William Wallace died in pieces, but his story survived for centuries. It survived the English courts. It survived the censorship. It survived the passage of time. If you made it this far, if you listened to the full story of the man who refused to bow even at the edge of death, do not leave without doing one thing. Hit that subscribe button. One click keeps this channel alive. One click helps these forgotten, brutal, beautiful histories spread to new people. It supports the work that keeps stories like Wallace's from fading into the dark. Hit like, subscribe, and comment the word freedom below. Not because it's a movie quote, but to honor the man who paid the ultimate price for it. History is violent. History is raw. And we are going to keep telling it. I'll see you in the next one.